So a little bit about meeting rules and engagement, and the way we're going to run this. We're going to keep everybody muted. So the only people who are going to speak are the people who are presenting. If you guys have questions during a presentation, so we've broken this into subject areas by accounting, by BSS, budget, etc., and ASM. IM me your questions through the chat function, and then at the end of their presentations, we'll answer any ad hoc questions that have come up. We don't have a lot of time for questions in that environment because we want to get to the list of the questions you guys submitted before the meeting. So if you guys could turn off your video and keep yourselves muted, we will be in good shape. And with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. Can somebody chat me and make sure you guys are seeing my screen right now? You should be seeing the presentation. All right, thanks. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So this is the agenda we're going to go over today. We're going to talk a little bit about fraud and abuse. Most of these presentations are about 5 minutes in length. We wanted to make sure we saved enough time at the end of the presentation to get through the FAQs. So I'll just go ahead and get started. Fraud and theft prevention. Our campus compliance programs have been kind of built around preventative measures that are done kind of on the front end of our business processes, meaning we require wet signatures, we require original receipts and things like that. We've made temporary exceptions to a lot of those procedures, but that in turn has increased our risk, obviously, for theft and fraud and things like that. So what we've done within our organization is to tighten some things up. We've instituted some additional PCard audit processing, and also some other activities that we're just kind of watching what's going on, just to try and detect it based on best practices. The biggest thing I want people to realize is that while we have made temporary exceptions, we are not sure how permanent a lot of this will become because of this threat of fraud, waste, abuse, theft, and things like that. So just be patient with us. We're trying to revamp our procedures so that we can use digital signatures going forward instead of requiring all these papers. But it's going to be a work in progress for some time. So just understand, when we come back to campus, when that eventually happens, you may be forced to go back to some of these old antiquated business processes. Hopefully not as much as we were doing before, but we may be forced to, just to make sure we are preventing anything that's going on. Let me see here. Okay, any questions on this before we move on to Art? No? Okay, very good.
Counting next.
Debbie's up first, so we'll go to Debbie. Debbie.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I just want to go over a couple of the changes that we've made recently to accommodate the shelter at home and the remote work. So the first thing, most of you probably already know that we're not requiring wet signatures. We're accepting either emails, or you can have there's a picture of your signature and you can place it on the document, or you can do a digital signature through Docusign. Next. Payment requests should be emailed to the accounts payable email address that's here. And I believe this slide deck will be posted, so you can go back and refer to it as well. Please do not send paper forms via interoffice mail. You all know that the mail room is not delivering mail. We pick up mail like once a week here. And then if we have papers that we have to have somebody come in and scan them. And so we prefer not to do that if we can. If you have the capacity to send it, a document via email, we prefer that. And again, wet signatures are not necessary on a PDF document. Next. Journal entries. Again, please email these to University Accounting email address shown on the screen. The journal I believe it's an Excel file, so you should be able to complete it and just attach it to an email and send it to this email address. Do not send the paper forms, again, please, through the interoffice email. It will be very slow if you do that. Could be a couple of weeks before we get to it. And wet signatures are not necessary. Next. Paycheck distribution. So employees, if you haven't already signed up for electronic ACH direct deposit, please do so if you can. This will alleviate any need to come to the cashier's office to pick up your check. There's a very small window that we hand out checks on payroll day, and those will be handed out at the cashier's office, which is in Mountain Hall Suite C, and it's between 11 and 1. I think we've been doing 11 and 2, but there's not a lot of traffic, so we'll probably shorten it to 11 to 1. Now, any check that's not picked up during that time, and I'm talking about paper checks, not direct deposit advices. So any paper checks that are not picked up during that time will be mailed to the address on file. So it'll take a few more days for you to get your check from the post office. And again, the direct deposit advices will not be mailed. Next. The cashier's hours are going to be starting next week. We're going to only have the cashier's office open Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1:30 to 4:30. So on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we will not be here to accept any deposits or any other type of cash or anything that we would normally bring over to the cashier's office. If there's an emergency, I think we have a procedure for that. You would contact me and we'll arrange something with you to meet you on a different day or time. So, next, I think that was it for me. Yep.
So Debbie, it looks like we have one question with regards to direct deposit, and the question is, will direct deposit receipts be made available later?
So your direct deposit, I believe in CMS you can access your pay stub in CMS. So I don't know. Maybe Taryn, you can pop in here and let me know what you're doing with the direct deposit advices.
Yeah, she actually answered and said yes, they will be available later. She answered in the chat.
Okay.
So, okay, another question came in. I'm assuming it's okay to upload a document in Docusign for those without templates and circulate for signature. Yes, that's correct, and that is an upcoming topic. We're going to show you guys how to do that in Docusign. Okay, any other questions? Okay, with that, we're going to go ahead and move on then to Art.
Yeah, let me just tag on to that last question. If there's documents, service agreements that are not of our general template, I'm going to ask you to forward those to me first to see if they're acceptable. If they're minor modifications, it should not be a problem. But if there are significant modifications, there may be some back and forth with the vendor in order to get to a hybrid agreement or something that we can accept. Okay, I'll talk about the BSS process changes. Commencement, other future events rescheduling. So we've been working with conference and event services, but obviously the commencement has not been canceled. It's been postponed to a later date. So we don't have that date at this time. So, but in the same manner, we've been communicating, asking you, if you've got an agreement for an event, please communicate to that vendor or that performer or that speaker that due to the COVID, we're going to have to postpone this event until a later date. We'll contact them to see about rescheduling once we're able to and once we have approval for establishing new dates. Another improvement that we've made to our templates is a force majeure provision. It was pointed out, and we determined that there really is not a strong force majeure provision in our general provisions, which are referenced in most of our service agreements and on the purchase orders. So if you are doing, initiating any other service agreement, speaker, all of our templates have been updated. Please grab the March 20th, 2020 version. Discard any other templates prior to that because they're not going to have the force majeure, which defines force majeure and provides for a notice that is far less than our typical 30-day notice for either party to terminate the agreement due to a force majeure event. Next, please. Vendor ACH. So what we're doing also in order to facilitate payments to vendors, we're working with, as you know, we're working with PaymentWorks for our vendor onboarding. So we're going to have them reach out, and as the vendors are being onboarded, we're going to establish their ACH payment for any new vendors coming into the system. We're also going to be reaching out to all of the existing vendors that we currently have in CFS who have not signed up or not been established for ACH payments because we haven't had that functionality in place. We're going to reach out to them and ask them to go to PaymentWorks and update their profile, which does exist in PaymentWorks now, but it needs to be updated to reflect their ACH information. They need to put that in. We're going to need to parse this over time. We're aiming to have it all completed no later than August 1st, but we have over 1,000 fairly current vendors where we've had activity in the last 2 years. We're going to be reaching out to them, but we need to parse it in a way so it's not going to overwhelm PaymentWorks. And then we'll have frustrated vendors who think that, oh, I put in my information, but I'm not getting ACH yet. This will be done over time gradually, but that's the move so that we can make all of our vendor payments through ACH. Next, please. ProCard purchases delivered to off-campus addresses. It's been asked a couple of times now, and we've gotten clarification. So some folks, because they're working remotely and they're ProCard holder, they're trying to order something for a staff or faculty member to be delivered to that person's home address. We are saying the position now is that no, that's not allowed. It's not authorized. Any of that equipment, any ProCard purchases must be delivered to campus. That's standard protocols. What will need to be done in each of those cases when equipment is going to be then removed from campus, we have this policy and procedure in place. It's not a policy, it's a procedure. We have the procedure in place. It's from the property guidelines and it's on the property site, website. You can pull down the off-campus home use permit to authorize then for any state equipment to be removed from campus and going to someplace off campus. So we're asking that you follow that, continue to follow that, but all the deliveries must be made to campus, and then you'll have to make arrangements then for getting that off-campus home use permit completed and signed. Again, that can be signed electronically and moved through the process. Next, please.
So it looks like that's it for you. So let me go through some of the questions here as it's come through. Yeah, so there's definitely, I want everybody to understand, this is a fluid environment still. We're still moving at light speed on a lot of these decisions and getting clarification from different agencies and different powers that be as we're moving forward. So yeah, Ava may have said something yesterday and it changed today. That's kind of been our operating assumptions, and they're going to continue to change tomorrow. So just be flexible and do the best you guys can do is what I would say. Okay, so is it still true that ACH payments will not be okay for claimable invoices that go to the SCO, or is that changing as well?
All right, could you repeat that question again, please?
Is it still true that ACH payments will not be okay for claimable invoices that go to the SCO, or is that changing as well?
We're going to see about changing that as well.
But right now it hasn't changed, right?
Correct.
Okay. What about if we purchase if we have to purchase research equipment for students working off campus.
That equipment is going to have to be delivered to the main campus and then make arrangements for transferring it to the students later.
Yep. What about books and other things that aren't equipment?
No, it's still all the deliveries are going to have to be made to main campus.
Okay. I also want to know about miscellaneous supplies and books. It's unreasonable to have work from home supplies be delivered to campus rather than directly to the employee. Well, okay, I think we've addressed that. I am being asked by faculty to ship supplies such as notepads to their homes. Is this the same as equipment? And I think we've answered that as well. I did bring this issue up to Natalie King today, and the cabinet is going to be discussing it again. So hopefully we'll get some better guidelines on this. Our primary issue was with regards to the university-owned equipment and not necessarily consumables. So that's something that we're talking about. But P-card purchases and having shipment somewhere else on P-card purchases is definitely a no-go. It's just too ripe for fraud and theft, and I'm sorry, it's just the way that it is. I hope it's discussed later. Do all of these parameters apply to U Corp? U Corp, you're going to have to talk to them about that. It's specific to stateside, yes. And what the corporation's doing on this, I'm not sure. I think Sherry's on there and she's got some slides that we're going to show a little bit later. Maybe she can address that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on just for the sake of time. And Docusign. Oh yeah, Susan, you're up.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
You can hear me, right?
Yes,
Yes,
we can
I
hear
Okay,
you.
okay, great. All right, so first, before I start, I want to mention that Docusign is a cross-platform application that can be used on your smartphones, on your tablets, on your computer, but I did prepare this for from a computer, so it might look a little bit different depending on where you're using it from. So just an FYI, single sign-on has been turned on for all staff and faculty across our campus. So to access it, you can go to this website, https, you can read it here, account.docusign.com. You enter your CSUMB email, and that will take you to our standard CSUMB Otter ID login page if you're not already logged in. I did not put a screenshot in here. I think we all know what it looks like. So next slide, please. Thanks. And keep in mind, this is to show you how to do an ad hoc template, if you will. This is not going from a standard template that we've already defined. So to get signatures from other people, you start an envelope within Docusign. So you're either going to do that from the homepage, click the new dropdown and select send an envelope, or from the manage page, select send an envelope. So go ahead and next page. And here on this page, you would click upload and select your document that you want to route. Here's that upload page or upload button here. And here's the important part where you want to add your recipients. So you would enter the name and the email. You can add as many recipients as you needed, ensuring that you have the correct signing order. Since we're talking about finance documents, you want to ensure that that last recipient, if you will, is somebody within finance and that they want to receive a copy of the finished completed document. So your order is really critical in here. Okay, so there's multiple, needs to sign and receives copy are the most common responsibility, but there are other options. So go ahead, next slide. The prepare view continued here. You can customize your email subject and message when you're sending your notifications, and then you click next. It's really pretty simple. On here, when you're applying your signatures, up in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see your drop-down field, and you select your recipient. Each recipient will have a unique color, and then you drag and drop your desired fields for each recipient onto the document for routing. And there's a number of different signatures. Most important is the signature and probably a date signed. You may also want initials. You may want the name, maybe an email. And then the document will then be routed via email, and completed documents will be sent to all recipients. And then when you're done, you click send. Okay. All right, and so next, and then we've included a 2-minute video from Docusign that basically goes through what I just mentioned. So, any questions on Docusign before we go into the next topic?
Okay, so let me see here. Does Docusign have to be used for finance documents? Sometimes we have documents that need to be signed, but don't need to go to finance afterward. So all of the VPs have agreed to utilizing this within their divisions for things that are not finance related. We're presenting this from a finance perspective. So this is a way for you to get signatures and route documents to us that wouldn't normally be that we would just do through paper processing. The other, what I would say is to talk to your managers, talk to your division VPs about how they want to roll this out within their divisions, what forms that you can use and stuff. It's really a division specific rollout. So prior to Docusign, I used Adobe Sign and sent executed docs stateside accounting. Do these need to be revised and sent through Docusign? No, they do not. Should we only send the document that needs to be signed or also upload the supporting documentation?
I would recommend keeping the supporting documentation together. And that way, when you're writing it, the supporting documentation, it goes along with that signature. So it kind of follows the trail, if you will.
Oh, shoot. Debbie, do you want to? Oh, shoot. Sorry. I'm having user error here on my screens here. Do you want to pipe in on that, Debbie?
Yeah, so if you have supporting documentation that goes with the Docusign document, please include all of the pages in one document in Docusign, even though those other pages don't need to be signed. That way it keeps it all together, and then when it gets routed to finance, we have all the documentation we need.
Got it. There's another question here about DocHub that's in Google Suite. I haven't been using that. I don't know of anybody else who has. Obviously somebody on campus is using DocHub. Do you have any experience with that, Susan? Can you answer?
I don't know what that is.
Right. So I think that the short answer is we will accept electronic signatures in this environment as long as the document, we have an electronic signature from some manner, and that we have the backup to be able to process a transaction. We will take it in whatever form it comes in. And then if there are questions, we'll obviously follow up if we don't have what we need. So I wouldn't say you can't use any of your existing tools or other alternative tools, but we wanted to put this out there because it's something the entire campus already has. It's something we already use for a lot of things within A&F, and so it was a really easy implementation for us. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to CFS. So Susan.
Yeah, so if things weren't crazy enough, we're also going to do it, and this is a minor upgrade, but we're going to have a CFS fluid user interface upgrade, phase 2, at the end of April. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Other way. Thank you. So some of you may recall back in April 2018, we introduced the new fluid menu. Here's a small picture of it. It introduced the new Fluid desktop. It gave us personalized homepage, gave us direct link tiles, and it also had a classic main menu breadcrumbs transition. The Fluid page, it allows for pages to dynamically adapt to the device being used. So it allows it to be used from a computer, smartphone, or tablet. Next page. So this phase 2 is scheduled right now to go live April 27th, 2020. The change is going to give us multiple Fluid homepages. So in addition to the one CFS 9.2 homepage, we are also going to have user maintained homepages, and it's going to give us branding for the CSU logo. The CFS 9.2 homepage maintenance, we're going to have to move all of our user direct link tiles to the personalized homepages by April 23rd, 2020. Direct link tiles, the navigation collection tiles, and the classic main menu is going to be discontinued. Okay, so next page. So what does that mean? So right now we have the CFS 9.2 dashboard, and some of you may or may not have done a custom tile on this page. And so what we need to do is move them off of this page into the the user defined menu, the CFS defined HP 1 through 4. So next page. So we're going to move them from CFS 9.2 to personalized homepage. We click on those 3 link on the right hand side, do personalized homepage. Next page, please. And move them into one of these 4 pages. Yes, next page. When we come in on April 27th, there will be a new page on CFS 9.2, and it's going to look something like this. And the navigation side that if anybody has been using the classic menu, which is prior to April 2018, that will no longer be available on April 27th. So I know that was really short and brief. We do have an FAQ that'll walk you through all of these steps. But this is what's planned for that weekend. And basically what we need you to do is move all your customizations. We think we have about 150 users on campus that have these direct links on the CFS 9.2, and we need to have those moved off by April 23rd to the user defined menus. So
Susan, there was a question that came in on this. Can the interface upgrade be delayed given everybody's current circumstances?
So it's not scheduled by CSUMB. It's scheduled at the chancellor's office level, and at this point, it's not being rescheduled. Yeah.
And then, so I think this is a clarifying question. So the end users will need to make the changes in the new CFS 9.2.
So actually, no. So the users can make the changes now. You can move your direct links to the user-defined menus now. You can make but we just need them to be made by April 23rd. Yes.
Are there instructions in the FAQs on how to move the links?
Yes, there are.
Okay.
And we will be emailing those of you that have this impact. Those of you that are impacted by this, we will be emailing you directly for this. And I see, and yeah, sorry. What if they're not moved prior to 4/23? So when you come in on April 27th, they will be combined with the CFS 9.2 menu. And if you see the CFS 9.2 menu where you see accounts payable, billing, CFS end user. Oh, and by the way, one of the things that'll be there on April 27th is a link directly to the finance data warehouse. Then your direct links will just be linked with the CFS 9.2 page.
Okay, great. All right, so we're going to move forward with the presentation now. So I think Yolanda, you're up. Thank you, Susan.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, I guess. I just want to talk a little bit about how the current situation has changed our budget timeline. So this slide here is just the deadlines that have currently passed already. So the January 10th, we did get the governor's budget. February 28th and March 9th, those two things didn't really happen because the chancellor's office kind of told us early on in February that they probably wouldn't be sending the campuses any communications because we expected the budget to be flat. And given that the bargaining units, the salary negotiations are all still open, we don't know what that means yet. So we're just continuing on in a flat status until further notice. March 13th, all the position lists did come in.
You there?
Yes, next slide.
Okay.
So what did change is from March 27th through April 30th, we moved all those dates forward to free up April as the campus transitioned to the remote environments. So the March 27th date for the budgets to be turned into the budget office is now May 7th. That being said, I know areas were already working on their budgets in February and March anyway. So if you've received VP approval to move your budgets forward, please do submit them earlier. Mid-April would be great. We have divisional assessments set up for the end of like the last week of April as they transition into Questica. And so having your budgets would be a nice thing to have so that the areas can see their budgets at that point. So if you have it earlier, please send it in. If you need the time, please, use the May 7th deadline. Next slide, please. We still expect the governor's revise to come out on May 8th. And then at that point, we'll take that next week to consolidate all our budgets based on whatever gets changed in the May 8th deadline. Again, this is something that was, the May 15th deadline was originally in April, so we've moved that forward. Next slide. The third week of May, the VPs will start reviewing what's come in, any budget requests and that kind of thing. Though, as we said, we expect everything to be flat, except for mandatory type costs. That being said, the VPs will do their review. We'll get 2021 position lists, May 20th. We expect that to come into the budget office, and then information will flow to the Strategic Budget Committee at the end of the month. Next slide. Next slide. So June 15th is the date. We've moved this a little bit forward, but these are the standard things that we had on the original timeline, which was the state budget to be finalized, the chancellor's office to issue a final allocations to us, the final decisions to be made by our campus leadership, and the president approve our budget, and then for us to notify the campus of their final allocations. I will say, keep in mind, this is kind of an arbitrary date to some degree, just because we don't know kind of where things are going to end up. The tax revenues have been moved to July 15th versus the April 15th date. So there may be some fluctuation on some unknowns in terms of what the state is aware of in terms of their revenues. Plus, we don't know what our current situation is going to do to our budget as well. So we will continue on with this timeline until we know more. Next slide. And then we moved out the trust budgets that need to be submitted. It was originally at the beginning of July. We've kind of eased that deadline and moved it out some as well. So as we receive more information, of course, we'll keep you abreast and let you know what's going on. That being said, the biggest things that happened was all the April deadlines got moved forward. And to please note that if you have your budgets done already, please submit them. We would gladly accept them and get going with that as we do our assessments with the divisions at the end of the month. And just a quick note on forms for the budget office. I believe we're pretty much accepting everything electronically anyway. We had a couple forms that required signature. Again, you can email those, like salary adjustments, position funding forms, trust agreements. We don't expect to have any of those, but if there are some one-offs, feel free to use the Docusign software to submit those. And I believe that's all I have.
Yep, I think that's it. So, trying to get this thing here. Oh, I am unmuted. Okay, good. Sherry, I'm not sure if you guys had something that you were going, oh, wait a minute. There's a question here, Susan. Do we have a template for the budget submission? I thought we sent that out to the divisional.
We do. Check with your divisional rep for that. They have those.
Okay. All right. I'm not sure if Sherry's on or not. Sherry, are you here? Or somebody from the corp here?
I'm here. Sherry's here.
Okay. All right. Do you want to walk through these next couple slides real quick?
Sure. Hi, everyone. For University Corporation, we're going to do our best to mirror stateside. So a request or a chat question earlier, the ship to addresses, absolutely we'll follow the university's lead there and restrict those. They need to come to the campus. As far as other things, we are a little bit different, of course, but we have our forms online, and so we ask you to go to our website. We will have some detailed instructions there. And we've been using Adobe. We found that is really helpful. We put something together to kind of walk people through how they can attach their documents and sign their documents. So that's been working really well for us. Same that has been said over and over again, electronic is absolutely fine and actually preferred during this time. So don't worry about previous documents that we wanted wet signatures on. This next slide is where we can show you some of the steps that we were using to consolidate documents using the Adobe feature. And again, we've got more information on our website. Feel free to go there and reach out with any questions that you guys have. But more times than not, you're going to find the corporation trying to follow stateside's lead and how documents are processed and how processes are handled. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Any questions for Sherry? What about chart field request forms for the U Corp?
Same goes. We'll take the electronic signature, however you can provide it to us. In fact, before all of this happened, a long time ago, we were using Docusign to work through a chart field request form. We had it in test mode. I think it was with the College of Science. I'm asking that we can revisit that one. If we can get that up and running the way that we had tested it, that will be the most ideal. That might take a little bit more doing. We'll see if we can get that going. In the meantime, just electronically sign that form, however works best for you.
Okay, I think that's it for questions. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on. So FAQ. So I wanted to just take the time and thank everybody for sending us all of your guys' questions. I thought they were really on point and they were good questions. So we're going to jump to that. Each area is going to answer the questions. We kind of split them up a little bit around accounting and whatnot. Two important resources for you. One really important resource is we've created a spot on our website for doing business under the shelter at home environment. And so if you go to the finance webpage, it's the first thing in the menu. You can click on that. You can find all of this information and also other stuff, that other guidance from us to how to do things in this environment. There also the FAQ document that you're about to see lives in that environment. So let's see here. I hope this works. Voila. Okay, let me open this up so we can see it. And so what we'll do here, the way we split this up is we kind of split it up by responsible area and then just went through it. So I'm going to start, I'm taking the general questions, and then Debbie will do the accounting questions, Art, the BSS questions, and so on and so forth. So the first question, when will staff be asked to return to campus? We don't know that yet. When will we get IT support for using our personal computers during this time? That's something you need to talk to your supervisor about, because I don't know the answers to a lot of these things here in these general questions are not necessarily finance issues, but since I'm an EOC member, I thought I'd take a crack at some of these. Do we have a process on remote work access as it relates to business operations, some documents, software? We've talked a lot about this today. And what I'll say is, I think post-mortem, when we return to normal operations, the entire campus is going to have to update their business continuity plans. We needed to update them anyway. We were directed to update them, but now we need to really think about remote work environments and as part of our continuity plans. What if the plan to shelter in order is extended or repeated? Hence why we're having this meeting, so people know how to get things done. Will we lose our jobs if we can't work because of taking care of kids? I think the CO's office has sent out, the 128 hours of paid admin leave is designed to cover that. Are we considering any further shutdowns for the rest of the year? Well, we have said that we're not going to have on-campus instruction this summer. A determination has not been made yet for the fall. Is there a system for obtaining and submitting approvals when working from home? It'd be nice to have one place to go that would list approval process and what we need for accounting. This is something we're working on a little bit more long-term. Hopefully you're getting answers to some of this in this meeting. Will due dates be hard dates? Depends on what we're talking about when we're talking about hard dates. Fiscal year-end close are going to be hard dates because they are hard dates. Are there any changes to the year-end deadlines? That's moving on to Debbie. So with these first 8 questions, I'm going to pause for a second, take a look here at the chat and see what has come in. Okay, I noticed it says to print your document. What if you are not able to print? Do we still use Adobe? You can print to a file instead of paper. We shouldn't be printing anything to paper anyway. Please post this PowerPoint and send the attachment to all attending. Thank you, will do. IT is able to install software and provides supports remotely in my experience. So open an IT ticket. UCorp directly use Adobe. Just letting folks know about the print. Okay. Sorry, I need to silence my phone. It's been extended. Yeah, we got the 256. Thank you. That's what came out yesterday. That's what I thought too, 256. Yep, you're all correct, 256. I probably said the wrong number. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn over for Debbie for the accounting questions.
Okay, so the first question we had was, are there any changes to the year-end deadlines? At this time, there are no changes, so we're still sticking to the timeline. And we need to stick to the timeline in order to close on time and get our information to the Chancellor's office. And they have not changed. We have not heard whether or not they've changed their deadline. So we're sticking to the deadlines at this time. Is there a schedule for when invoices are paid? It doesn't seem to be consistent through Docusign. So beginning next week, check runs will be conducted every Thursday. The last couple of weeks, we've had check runs every week. It's just not been on the same days, so it's not been a consistent schedule. But beginning next week, we will be cutting checks, student refunds, and vendor payments, ACH payments on Thursdays. Will there be a formal process for payments during the shelter at home? So processing for payments remains the same with the exception of the electronic and digital approvals and requests for the documents digitally. We are submitting invoices, reimbursements electronically with scanned receipts. Will the original receipts be requested to retroactively attach to these documents once normal operations have resumed on campus? No. So original documents will not be requested if they've previously been provided electronically. Are we going to be ready to do accounting transactions online or still doing things with forms and such? So currently, we've not changed our procedures for accounting transactions with the exception of the electronic documents. That doesn't mean in the future, I mean, we are looking at something to do electronic approvals through a workflow, but we have not been working on that yet. What are the principal changes you anticipate in our operations going forward? So the principal changes I would like to see is eliminate all the paper-based transactions that we've been using in the past. So this crisis has pretty much forced us into developing a process to do everything electronically, and it's a trial and error, but I think we got it all figured out to this point, so it seems to be working well. So that's our end goal, is to eliminate all the paper that flows back and forth. How are we to handle processing paper invoices that are POs and requiring a physical stamp and subsequent charge string to be written on it for final processing? So I'm not sure, this sounds more like an internal question, but I don't know if you all know, but when we create a PDF, you can edit the PDF by creating a text box, and then you can type in text within that box, and when you save the PDF, it saves the text boxes on the PDF form. So that is an area that we are going to look into doing, so we don't have to have a paper copy and write things on the document itself. Next question, at last year end, some prepaid items did not appear to move over this fiscal year. Not sure when those items would appear. What query or screen in either CFS or DW should I look at to confirm them? I'm going to ask Brenna to answer that question.
Yes, hi. As far as the prepaid entry, last year's legal prepaid entry has been reversed in this year. If there are any prepaids moving forward into this fiscal year from last year's transactions, those will not be recorded until about the middle of June during the year-end process. So you'll see the prepaids for this year being booked in June. As far as queries go, or data warehouse, you would just have to look at last year's, the year-end balance in the prepaid accounts. It's called other prepaids, just to see what was booked last year. And then as far as, like I said, this year has not been recorded yet. And if you have any specific questions regarding prepaids, you can contact myself with any specific questions.
Thanks, Brenda. Can you take the next question too? How do we complete TECs and personal reimbursements remotely?
Yeah, sure. Essentially via email, the TECs, you can download the form from the website, fill it out. It's an Excel spreadsheet, so you can fill it out. Attach any backup. You can scan, take pictures, attach any backup to an email and route it for approval. As long as we have electronic approval and just an email approval, we will go ahead and process that. Personal reimbursements, it's essentially the same thing. Docusign can be used for personal reimbursements. We do have a template for that. But again, just filling out the form, attaching any backup to an email and routing it for signature electronically or just an email approval.
Thank you. So next question is travel. How will travel paperwork be handled for travel paid for the spring, conferences postponed, and planned travel in the fall? I believe we wrote up a process for and what was going, how it was going to be handled for things that were paid for and canceled, and all different, a bunch of different scenarios. So we'll make sure that's out there on the website that Steve referred to a slide or two ago, and make sure that that's out there for everybody to see. Next question. Due to employees working remotely, will original receipts still be required? So it's another question. No. So if you've provided the document electronically, we do not need the original receipt at this time.
Okay, so we've got a few questions that have come in. Let me just come back up here to where I think it starts. Oh, Sherry, this is a question for you. What about the corporation side for invoices getting paid? What's the schedule? Are you guys doing weekly? What are you doing for your check runs?
Correct. Our intention is to do weekly, this week being the exception. So with the holiday, we did not do a check run this week, but we will resume our weekly check runs Monday. That is our intention. If that changes, I will advise.
Okay, great. Are there any, Art, this is a question for you. Are there any changes to how we submit our ProCard reports?
Yes, we're going to be developing, we know that there's been a couple of ways of submitting them electronically, all without printing anything on paper. Some of it is all within CFS. The tricky part is capturing the receipt images and attaching them in CFS. It is possible. We'll have detailed instructions to share. Right now, we're experimenting with a couple of different ways that some creative folks have found to send to Ava their reconciliation reports all electronically. But we want to capture it to be able to say attaching the receipts and to go into CFS, apply the chart strings, reconcile all that. We'd like it all to stay in CFS because that's where it's going to end up. But we'll have a couple of different options to provide to you in details.
Okay, good. I think Brenda brings up a good point here with regards to question number 15. How are we to handle processing paper invoices that are POs require physical stamp? And she reminded us of the payment request form that's now available via Docusign as a standard template. So we presented that at a previous business ops forum. That information is out on our website. So if you guys have questions on that, you can use that. I've been sending PO invoices to the AP email along with the PO number and okay to pay verbiage. Does that suffice? So Debbie, or Brenda, that's a question for you guys.
Yeah, I think that'll be fine as long as that person, the one that's saying it's okay to pay, is the correct approver for that chart string.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. The only caveat with purchase orders are if there are multiple lines to that purchase order, accounts payable may not know which line to put to record that invoice to. So if the line is obvious, that would absolutely be okay.
Okay, great. Will processing time for TECs be affected at all?
Great question. We are processing, accounts payable is able to process TECs remotely. We are prioritizing student refunds and employee reimbursements. So we are trying to be sensitive to those. We are experiencing a little bit longer processing times remotely with this new process. We're trying to get used to it, but there will be a little bit of a learning curve. And currently we're experiencing a little bit of a delay.
Yeah, there's a couple extra steps that we have to do because it's all electronic. So we're just trying to work out the bugs in that. So unfortunately, that causes a little backup to what our processing is. But like Brenna said, we are prioritizing reimbursements and student refunds.
For mileage reimbursements, will we need to include the Google Map directions /map?
Yes, I would say yes. If you could get a screenshot of it along with the email, or print to a PDF. But yes, we do need verification of what the mileage was.
Okay, and Chris Shaw put a comment in there to everybody with regards to the limited work hours and the rotating staff with regards to the mailroom. And that's in the chat. I will also make sure that we get this information onto the FAQ. Great, thank you. For travel scheduled to take place after May 31st, can we submit RATs for those trips? That's up to you. At this point, I'm not sure travel is going to be taking place. We just don't know. So I don't know why you couldn't get authorized to travel, but remain flexible. Don't buy non-refundable tickets. Okay, please move the spreadsheet up so we can see past 22. Well, we haven't gotten to those questions yet. Man, patience, people. Here we go. And please confirm Corey's question for the U Corp as well. I'm sorry, I must have missed Corey's question. Corey, where's your question at?
That's the RATS question, May 31st.
Oh, okay, okay.
So for corporation at this time, any RAT that comes in, we expect to see the vice president's approval. If that's there, then we'll consider it and it'll go through its normal process, but it has to have the VP approval. So I think it's a question of whether or not the VP is in a place or position to approve something 2 months out.
Okay, great. All right, so Art, we've got a couple questions here for you with regards to P cards, it looks like.
No, that's the ProCard reports that I addressed.
Yep, so we've already answered that one. We've already answered that one. Okay, Yolanda.
Okay, so due to the current circumstances, if student course fees are not used, will they be able to transfer to a different account, I assume that is, or roll over to the next term? What happens when student fees aren't used is they fall to the bottom and they're swept back into the fund and they are used as one-time requests in the following semester. So if they don't get used, they'll be swept back, with the exception of probably commencement. Will students off campus, let's see, with students off campus, can we still use MSF funds to purchase programming supplies for the end of year and next year? I would say you can use the fees to purchase what you normally would have purchased had they been on campus. If that's what you typically do, we can continue our same process. Question 24, are student fees for activity classes going to be given back to the student on a pro rata basis? Will we still have to spend the student fee money by June 30th? So yes, you will still need to follow, it's business as usual. You'll still spend the fees as you normally would have. Should the students request their course fee refund through the normal channels, we'll refund them back, but you should still continue doing what you originally would have done.
So the next question looks like it's for Debbie. I think we've answered this at this point. The next one, we're encouraged to make our own Docusign documents. We've talked about that as well. In fact, we showed you guys how to do that. So, so then the next one, I guess, is for you, Art, but I think we've touched on canceling POs for Capstone Festival catering services. We did touch on that. If you have further questions, follow up with Art. And then the last one, is there a way to get access to create my own templates? We've touched on that. And what is the status of the 2021 budget? I think we've touched on that. Let me see here. There's a couple other things going on here in the chat. Chris Shaw, can you please jump on the line and confirm the shipping and receiving Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Is that correct?
It's in the chat.
Did she answer it?
Yeah, she answered it at 1:52.
Yeah, but at 1:57, somebody else is saying they were told something different.
Okay.
So Chris, can you unmute and get on the line? Okay, guess not. I don't know if she's still here or not. Okay, well, we'll follow up on that. I can't even see this. And then note, I thought I would share, we recently purchased some computer related equipment, learn the items purchased will need to be tagged by property before we can pick up. Yep, that is correct.
And Richard Arredondo has been coming onto campus and tagged when it's been necessary.
Yep. Okay, so it looks like somebody answered on the inside the chat. There is an answer. Make sure you call over there to the mailroom before you go over there at 3703. From bid this morning, it's Wednesday, Friday, 8 to 10 and 3 to 4. I assume this for accounting documents. The register filling out the form cannot be signed by the same person, even if they have fiscal authority. The requester filling out the form cannot be signed by the same person. Okay, well, we're working on getting with Joe to make sure we've got the hours confirmed. What we'll do, because we're out of time, we will follow up with you guys on this list with what the confirmed hours are. We'll also post it on the FAQ here and on the website. Let me see here. Let me pop back over here to this and see if we've got anything else we missed. Okay, so the next meeting is going to be fiscal year end training. We're doing fiscal year end training this year in one session on the 22nd instead of 2 sessions. And then Questica and the Corp updates will be on May 6th. Thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate you guys taking your time. And please feel free to reach out if you guys have any questions or need any help.